Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Recently, Rich Blumenthal from Connecticut, a Connecticut senator who's part of the investigation into the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, he's made some comments that seem like what we've been seeing so far isn't even close to how egregious the the lack of protection for Donald Trump was. Okay, now let's listen to him. And it's pretty shocking to have something like this. So it's a bipartisan committee, and this is a hardcore Democrat here. And, this is an assassination investigation into Donald Trump, who's a controversial Republican to all of them. And yet they all seem to be on the same page that something really, egregious went on here. And I think what we're going to find out, that's where the conspiracies come in, was it done that way intentionally to make it unsafe for Trump? I don't know if I don't think there's a connection between Thomas Crooks and some other agencies. I mean, still, we don't know anything about that either. But I think that the lack of preparation and sort of just the urgency that they all seem to have there, it was really ridiculous watching and going over those documents that we've seen. Nobody even went up to Thomas Crooks and even tried to talk to him. Okay, so let's listen to Rich Blumenthal right now.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures by the Secret Service in this assassination attempt on the former president. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that. I mean, that's basically an indictment of everybody. I mean, Homeland Security pretty much runs the entire show, and he is absolutely saying how shocked people are going to be when they see how unforthcoming they've been, probably trying to CYA, cover their asses about what they did. And that's really what stokes conspiracy theories, when people aren't open. And I think he mentions that.
To them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said they're going to be appalled?
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction. And we will have a report very, very soon that I think will absolutely shock the American people, or it should.
I mean, let me know in the comments what you think right here. I mean, this is really quite alarming just listening to this. We've been covering this case for a long time. We've seen the glaring lapses of communication, the strategic placement of snipers, the sort of unwillingness of anybody to go approach the person that they all were watching. He jumps up on the roof and starts running, and nobody goes over and does anything. I mean, I think this is just, one person climbed up after they walked around, and by the time he climbed up there, this guy's about ready to start shooting. So once he climbed up onto the roof and dropped down, 35 seconds later, the first gunshots started.
About the lapses and lags in the protection that was afforded that day, and the breakdown in communication, failure in responsibility.
Is that report coming today or tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Is that report coming out tonight or tomorrow?
No.
Do you think, is there a level of urgency to get this information out as soon as possible because of the void that's being filled with conspiracy theories about what happened on that day?
That is a really critical question. The failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming fuels the conspiracy theories that have no basis in fact. If government officials failed to be factual and forthcoming. The petri dish for the virus of untruth and conspiracy theories is made all the richer. We have an urgency, we have an imperative to get the facts and make them public, all of them, as soon as possible. I cannot say more passionately how urgent I feel this mission is, because the American people need and deserve to know the truth, even if it's embarrassing. Because the way to avoid these kinds of catastrophes in the future is to have the truth made known to the American people.
To that end, do you feel the Secret Service has made the necessary adjustments immediately, given the fact that we are at the...
I mean, this is what makes me so angry. It's like the government is responsible and is required to tell us the truth. Okay? I mean, we are the taxpayers. We pay for them. We should get to know the truth in these types of events. We still don't even know the full truth of the Kennedy assassination. It's insane. They had a huge commission on 9/11. That was good, but why isn't it just more transparent right now? Why don't we get to just know everything? Seems like it's something that should have been handled right away. I mean, you remember the initial Secret Service woman that came forward. I can't even remember her name now. I really don't give a shit. She had to resign because she didn't know a damn thing, it seems like. After a few days after this happening, she's out there and she just doesn't even know anything. But I think she did know, and that's the thing. I think everybody's trying to cover stuff up because it's embarrassing of the lack of preparedness. Like I've always said, had this Trump rally not had a shooting, they would have claimed what a success it was, even though every element would have been exactly the same. If Thomas Crooks just didn't happen to be there, somebody else could have, but they would have claimed it a victory. And what a great day it was.
The height of a presidential campaign with so many different protectees under their charge?
I am satisfied that the Secret Service had made improvements that provide much stronger safeguards, and that it is knowledgeable about the lapses that occurred, the failures that contributed to this assassination attempt being as close to successful as it was. I think the procedures, the protocols, and the practices have been improved. We'll see whether we're completely satisfied with them, because we're only beginning to learn about how the Secret Service is doing things differently.
Do you expect a report next week?
I'm not going to predict when it's going to be.
Okay, but not today or tomorrow.
It won't be today or tomorrow, so far as I know. Chairman Peters is, and others we're four of us. Chairman Peters is the head of the committee. I'm the head of the subcommittee that is helping lead the investigation. And then, of course, we have two ranking members. But I just want to stress to you, this investigation is completely bipartisan. We are totally on the same page. We are working together in a very bipartisan way. It's one of the most bipartisan investigations that I've headed.
Is the report going to issue more findings about the motivations of the shooter?
I'm not going to go into details.
There have been a number of officers that were put on leave after their involvement in the security apparatus for this that ended up leading to the assassination attempt. Do you feel like there's been enough accountability in that regard, or should other people be put on leave or asked to resign as a result?
Unquestionably and indisputably, there needs to be more accountability. People need to be held responsible. And part of where we are driving is to make sure that there is accountability. Without accountability, this kind of failure and lapse will happen again, because there needs to be that sense that someone is the point person, someone is going to be held responsible.
Yeah, somebody definitely needs to be held responsible. And if you remember, Thomas Crooks was hanging out right down here on a wall. And then eventually they observe him sitting at a picnic table over in this area. And then he gets up and walks around this direction. And apparently that sniper said, oh, everybody, he headed towards the Sheetz gas station over here. Right. Sheetz, right? because he didn't realize that there was a, you're locked off in there. But again, why didn't this sniper just keep watching over there, and then you would have seen him climb up on the roof? But he didn't. He went back over here, or did whatever he did. We don't know what he did because we haven't read the report yet. Then, and then as we remember, people were called in to say, hey, there's a guy, we can't find him, he's a person of interest. And then we have an officer walking this direction. He's the one on his body camera that filmed Crooks on the roof, jump down and come across this little bridge here, and then he stood here for a little bit. And he went over here apparently at 6:06 in the evening, and then we see him about like 6:08ish running around over here across and making his way over there, and he's up here for about 3 minutes before the first gunshots. So the officers that were in the squad cars that drove in from like right over here, they drove, one of them drove like this, and then they pulled over, and they were over here watching Crooks on the roof, and then eventually they drove over into this area. I've made videos on all this so you can see it. They drove over here, and then he walked around like this. Instead of like, oh yeah, we saw him up there, going there first, he walks over here, and then around, and eventually they run over here, and they get lifted up, and then he sees Crooks with a rifle in his backpack. Then he jumps down, and then he goes this direction, and he starts walking over here, and you can see him on his radio. This is 35 seconds before the shooting. And then if you remember, there's an officer that exited this building. He's walking like this, and he hears on his radio, because he runs about like 15 seconds before the first shot, he starts running this direction. And then the shots happen, and then we know that Crooks got off 3 initial shots, as you can see represented right here, that hit Trump. One shot hit Trump's ear. Corey Comparatori was killed by, I think it was in the volley of 5 shots. So Crooks shot 3 controlled shots, then he shot 5 quick shots, and I think one of those hit Corey Comparatori, and I think maybe one or two of the initial first 3 shots hit the other 2 people that were in the stands over here that were injured, but they survived. Okay, and so he did those first 8 shots. So then a sniper, or I guess a SWAT team member from down here, shot up at Crooks's gun. Now, he tried to hit Crooks, but he hit his gun right up here. Great shot, really. And he, damaged the gun a little bit. It was still operational, however. And then about 6 seconds after that, a sniper on this roof shot Crooks and took him out. The snipers that were on this roof right here had no visual sight of him because of this tree right there. Okay? But man, the fact that he was able to get up onto the roof, given all of the police officers and people moving around, it was an absolute shit show, for lack of a better term. All right? So let me know in the comments section what you think about what Blumenthal's saying here. I think it's going to be pretty incredible. When we get this report, we'll go over the entire thing, and we'll get to realize the shock that he's talking about. All right? So thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate you. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.